Hey everyone, so we've got 5 minutes on Radium Girls. And if you do not know the story in US history, listen to the end to see how it has impacted the country and overseeing corporations and companies since. So back in 1890, Marie and Pierre Curie discovered radium. A company in 1905 realized, wait a minute, radium glows. We could totally use this. So the US Radium and Radium Dial Company started using and creating timepieces called undark. They would paint them. They glowed just enough that you could see it in the dark, but yet not so bright that soldiers would be discovered when they were out in the field at night trying to look and see their direction or look and see what time it was. So they started these factories where the employees were getting paid triple, if not more, what they were getting paid at other factories at the time. And at the time, it was women in the factories because a lot of the men were off in the war. So these women were using the lip, dip, and paint method to get the finest point on their paintbrush to paint these timepieces that they were making for the soldiers. They felt they were doing something for their country. Well, they were dipping into radium, licking, dipping, and then painting. Licking again, dipping, and painting. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Extended exposure to radium over time by doing this. Radium, much like calcium, when it gets into your body, it goes into your bones. These women began glowing. They became known as the Ghost Girls because of their color and their clothing and their bodies starting to glow. Magia was the first to die from this. What happens is your bones get pitted and weak and they break. And her jaw was getting infected and it actually broke off. It is a horrible death, painful, horrible. She died of massive hemorrhaging and painful sores in her mouth, wounds everywhere. Doctors were being paid to lie to these women when they were getting these sores and these pains and telling them, you're fine, nothing's going on, it's all up in your head, no big deal. They had fake doctors coming in. They had investigations being covered up. The companies were paying to keep these women sick so they could keep operating. More women, more sickness. And radium poisoning was not considered an illness even at the time. So finally, Raymond Berry stepped in as an attorney and said, let's do this. These women wanted to fight back. He held the first court case and fought for these women. Dr. Harrison Martland did autopsies on these women. He said they were still glowing in their coffins when they were dead. So in January 1928, they finally had gone to court. As part of this, they had disinterred, exhumed Maggie, the first person who had died, and re-examined her, and she was still glowing because the half-life of radium is 1,600 years, 1600 years before it becomes inactive. She's glowing for a long time. So this went to court, and the women were all even too weak to hold up their arm to, testify. They each won about $149,000 in today's value of money. They also got a weekly stipend or a monthly stipend they would get, their court case money, their medical bills were all paid for. Well, these women were only going to live months. And in the cases that were held on this, the women all said, we want you to study us until we die because we want you to know what happened to us. In 1934, a group from Ottawa, Illinois went to court over this. They called themselves the Society of the Living Dead because they all knew they were going to die from this poisoning. Their fight led to the start of OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. It led to this organization being here now, overseeing companies today. In all, 112 dial workers died from poisoning from exposure to this lip dip paint method that was used. Margaret Looney and Catherine Donahue were buried in lead-lined coffins and are kind of the most well-known, I think, in some of the story, along with Maggie, because they were in lead-lined coffin. Lead shielding is used when radium is around, when there's radiation, because it blocks the exposure. And it blocks it because of the high density of lead, the atomic number. Stops the gamma, the x-rays, all of it from getting through. That's why it's used in the lead coffins. It encases that radiation poisoning. If you go to the Catholic cemetery where a lot of these Radium Girls are buried in Ottawa, you can still, on the Geiger scale with a Geiger meter, pick up radiation. As of 2018, there's still an issue with areas within Ottawa where the ground has been used over in other spaces, where new things have been built. There's still exposure. 1,600 years is the half-life of radium. It's not going away anytime soon. But Radium Girls know the story. It created OSHA. It's one of the biggest lead coffin stories that you will find out there.